Thank you to all our candidates. I'd now like to call up any candidate that was invited that I may have missed or that showed up late that wants to come up here. All right, so it doesn't look like anybody else is here, so now I'm going to invite Kayla Blazer to the stage, one of the student monitors, and she's going to tell you about the Q&A.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caleb Blazer, and I'm honored to be one of 3 moderators alongside Antonio Aguilera and Kennedy Myers. We are proud to announce that the questions generated are 100% student-driven. Harlem students completed a survey during their advisory where they could provide their perspectives and ask questions on topics that are most important to them. Every student had an equal opportunity to complete it and identify their main concerns throughout their school. Students were able to ask questions of their school board members and ask about their policies and initiatives they hope to see improve in their Harlem School District. Students were asked to rank the top 5 issues they felt were most important. The rounds were organized by topics that the students felt most impacted their Harlem experiences. This approach ensures that student voices are heard and empowers them to make a difference in their school.
Thank you, Newnham. All right, just to kind of reiterate the rules for this Q&A segment for both you guys and the school board members. Each member at their table will be given 30 seconds to answer a question. We have 3 tables, Table 1, Table 2, and Table 3. I said 30 seconds, that is incorrect. It is 90 seconds for each candidate. Each table will be asked the same question. The questions will change for each table, but they will all be under the same subjects as was previously listed on the side. Thank you. All right. Starting us off with Table 1, I will be addressing candidate Karen Bell first. There is currently fear that federal funding is going to be cut. If this were to happen, how would you prioritize the programs that are now currently in place?
If I was a school board member, of course, as a candidate, one of the things we must do is investigate. I know that there's many problems and concerns within the district, within the country. So me as a investigator, I would have to get to the root of what's really going on. Also, I am so very interested in policy. So that would be one of my strongest beliefs, is to investigate, to see how I could play out what the district is needing.
All right. I will move over to candidate Paul Hoffman. I will restate the question. There is currently fear that federal funding is going to be cut. If this were to happen, how would you prioritize the programs that are now currently in place?
So that's is it okay? Oh, it is working. So yes, I think that's a great question, and one that this is how I'm monitoring it right now, is I look at the national press, things coming out of Congress, and what exactly is happening. I regret that there's fear for a lot of cuts that are going to affect education. My current understanding is that, like pre-K, lunch programs, some of the other ones that are, very crucial, that those funds are still coming into the school system. But there are employee cuts in the agencies being proposed. And that, I see it as a positive that the money that our country is bleeding, at $2 trillion a year deficits is being addressed. So I think it's important that they cut in the right places, and we are aware of it, and then work with our legislators. One legislator that I think is important for us to connect with is Congressman Darren LaHood, who represents this area, and coordinate our concerns, and I would work in that area.
All right. Moving on over to candidate Richard Janicek, I will repeat the question for a third time. There is currently fear that federal funding is going to be cut. If this were to happen, how would you prioritize the programs that are now currently in place?
I think you look at a few different things when you lay the budget out. You do a needs assessment. Now, I always believe that schools can do anything, but sometimes you can't do everything. So you have to prioritize. So a needs assessment helps with that. Also, the feasibility studies on not just the services we are providing now, but what services are going to be needed in the next few years, because you can see trends. But I think when you look at those different services or where there's going to be cuts, whether it's our choice or somebody else's choice, I think you look at the regional office or you look at neighboring school districts. Where can you share services? Where do you look at where everybody's strengths are, and everybody circles the wagons, and everybody looks at how is it that we can still do what we're doing or duplicate that as much as we possibly can with what we got or what we're going to get.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on over to table 2.
All right, I'm going to address candidate Diana Johnson first. The CTE building completed construction over the summer and is now in use as of last semester. Considering future installments and renovations, how do you plan on using our current funding to improve or upgrade the buildings and structures throughout the district?
Well, thank you. Well, I say, just being new to the board, that's one thing that we have to consider. We have to see how we can fund it and keep it going with the cuts, whether we could have a recession going on. But I truly do believe that our administration, I went to the meeting for the meeting of the whole on Wednesday. I stayed for the business part, and I listened to a lot of what they had to say. I know our assistant superintendent, Josh Arand, who's in charge of the operations and business portion of things, had said already that he is already seeing how we can handle all this and all the different costs. He's working on that very closely, and I think he's got a good handle on it. You know, he said in the meeting that when he came on board in 2008, he was there for less than 6 months and the big recession hit, and he navigated the Harlem School District through that. And I remember what a great job he did doing that, and he's already thinking ahead and thinking of ways to get this done. So I definitely look to him and the existing board members to get their input to see how we would do that. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to candidate Patty Lawrence. The CTE building completed construction over the summer and is now in use as of last semester. Considering future installments and renovations, how do you plan on using our current funding to improve or upgrade the buildings and structures throughout the district?
I feel like I'm at an advantage on this question because I actually worked on the CTE building as a staff member. I was the CTE coordinator for 3.5 years, and in that role I was able to secure funding through DCEO grants and $500,000. I was able to secure a donation from one of our local businesses of $250,000. I secured $60,000 in money to purchase new tools for the new CTE building, as well as miscellaneous donated equipment for the buildings. So I think just having that awareness that those grants are out there and that we can continually be applying for these, I think that my first recommendation would be to hire a full-time grant writer, and that's all they do is write grants to support our classrooms, our students, and our teachers in the classroom. I think that's the most important thing we can do with any financial cuts. My recommendation would always be, when it comes to cuts, is never cut anything related to the students. If it comes to their learning, if it comes to after-school activities, all of those create a whole student. So my thing is do the least amount of harm, and that means by not starting with anything that the students are impacted by. Thank you.
Candidate Katie Littlefield. The CTE building completed construction over the summer and is now in use as of last semester. Considering future installments and renovations, how do you plan on using our current funding to improve or upgrade the buildings and structures throughout the district?
Yeah, and sort of I said in my statement as I started, so very proud of the CTE building. I think it's crucial. I think we've seen, that shift into the trades, so that being accessible to students that want to take that path, and we see that there's great success in that for students to do that. So continuing to bolster that and expanding that as best as we can. How I would see funding for the different buildings, obviously not sitting on the board, you know, you look at the school district budget, and having looked at the DLA architecture plan for the 10-year life safety that does go all the way for 20 years, it's a pretty extensive amount of money that needs to be spent on schools because as we all know, the buildings are aging, and so there is going to have to be a very strong focus. Right now, the Buildings and Grounds Committee is wrapped up into finance. It doesn't even have its own committee. That is very unusual for districts to not have a specific Buildings and Grounds Committee. So it doesn't seem, not that they're not focusing on it, but maybe not to the prioritizing it in the way that it needs to be, considering the amount of money that needs to be put back into the schools. Now, when you look at I'm talking school board talk, a 10-year life safety plan. Some of those things are extras that architects put in there. So even trimming that back by 20 and 25% still puts it at $85 million over a 10-year. That's $8.5 million a year that needs to be allocated from the budget. So that is something that, as a board, we would have to get extremely creative on how we're going to fund that.
Thank you. All right, now to Diane McKinney. The CTE building completed construction over the summer and is now in use as of last semester. Considering future installments and renovations, how do you plan on using our current funding to improve or upgrade the buildings and structures throughout the district?
Okay, I love that we have this center. I think it's the best thing that we have invested in the last few years of this educational program. These kids have the opportunity to go out and be mentored by the tradespeople. They also have apprenticeships that they can work with, and eventually those people and the students will work together to bring them back to our own community. In order to save the money, I'm not real privy on the information about how much the finances, since I am learning to become part of a board member. What I would think, though, is that Josh Rand, once again, I sat on a couple meetings with him, and I just feel strongly that he knows the direction and what our district is going, and I feel that he can work things out with our board and look at the financial part of it, and I think he's doing a good job also with that part.
We're going to move on to table 3.
This question is directed to candidate Evelyn Meeks. Harlem is hearing a large amount of parent and student complaints due to the change in school start times. This change was, however, required due to lack of bus drivers. How do you plan on obtaining more bus drivers because of the recent shortages?
Okay, hello, can you hear me? We're discussing that right now. I understand what's going on, and I feel sorry for, the things that are happening and the problem that it's causing, but that's something that administrators did work on to try to improve, making sure that all students were able to get to school and back home. But we're working on trying to do something to really help our students and the parents and the teachers to be able to teach, get our kids in school in time and be able to leave, because I know some students are coming to school sleepy or some are leaving tired, but it's a hard subject. And I don't want to say anything false or misquote anything, but I want you to know that we do care, and we are truly, truly working on trying to improve this. And hopefully we will come up with something before the next school year that will benefit and help everyone.
Thank you.
This is not a problem that just started because the school start times changed. The whole idea of transportation and providing the transportation is important to the school district, and it's a big deal. And it's something that we've been talking about since I've been on the board, and I'm sure they were talking about it before I ever got on the board, is recruiting and keeping the bus drivers. Yeah, that's part of the problem, and that's I don't want to say, you don't want to blame somebody, but yeah, the transportation has significant impact on the start time. So I advocate for thinking outside of the box. We support those administrators whose job it is to come up with these plans. They run the plans by us. We have people on the board who are real smart that come up with some great ideas. But yeah, we've just got to think out of the box and come up with those solutions as best we can.
Thank you. This next question, the same question is directed to candidate Kurt Thompson. To reiterate the question, Harlem is hearing a large number of parent and student complaints due to the change in school start times. This change was, however, required due to lack of bus drivers. How do you plan on obtaining more bus drivers because of the recent shortages?
Thank you. Am I allowed to talk? I don't want to blow your ears off. All right, there we go. Can you hear me? I probably don't even need a microphone. So I have been working on this since it was announced at the end of last year. It's a problem. I joked we need 18 bus drivers and nothing has to change. And with that, more bus drivers retired. We had great bus drivers. It's how it's going to work. And we were seeing, if you guys remember in the news, we had Rockford having blackouts. Their kids would go to the bus stop and there's no bus that's coming. We could not have that happen. And between our team of administrators, they came up with a plan, the tiered plan. It got everyone to school. It accomplished that. The problem, as you know, are the start times. We've got kids that are getting to school very early, kids that are starting very late, and based on your age, it's difficult. I've worked with different software on the buses, handling with buses as well, going through and seeing all the start times of other neighboring districts and the time to come up with a plan, and I'm not done. We're going to find something, be it 19 bus drivers, or difference on times, but if this impacts you, you know the difficulty. You know that high school has to worry about getting to internships in school. You know that our special education programs have those appointments that need to get there. There is not a magic bullet for this. It's making everything best we can, and I'm not done fighting. Let me keep fighting. Thank you.